If you're being tested by the shadows constantly, you might be a dark chosen one. You ever feel like life keeps throwing you into the fire over and over again? Like no matter how hard you try to rise, something always pulls you back into the mud. Like there's this constant tension, like something is watching you, testing you, waiting to see if you'll break or if you'll finally remember who the hell you are. If that speaks to you, even a little, then listen closely. Because this isn't just bad luck. This isn't karma out to get you. This might be the truth no one told you. You're not cursed, you're chosen. Not the light path, not the love and light, unicorn and angel wings kind of chosen. I'm talking about something deeper, more ancient, more dangerous. You might be a dark chosen one. I know just hearing that might rattle something inside of you. Your chest might get tight. Your breath might slow. That's not fear. That's recognition. Because deep down, you've always known you were different. You've always carried this weight, this knowing, this inner fire you couldn't explain. You've always seen through the illusions, even when it hurt. Even when it would have been easier to play dumb or numb out or pretend you didn't feel the things you feel. But you can't. You never could. Why? Because you were born to walk through the dark and alchemize it.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
You see, the dark chosen ones are not evil. They're not demonic. They're not here to destroy. But they are here to tear down illusions. They are here to walk into the shadows of this world and not flinch. They are here to carry the torch where no light has been carried before. While others are chasing peace and pleasure, dark chosen ones are being transformed in the trenches. You don't get your power from the mountaintops. You get it from surviving the valleys, the betrayals, the breakdowns, the spiritual warfare that no one else sees. And while others are praying for things to get easier, you've been chosen to become stronger. But strength doesn't look like what people think. Real strength. It's not loud. It's not pretty. It's not performative. It's silent. It's forged in silence, in loneliness, in losing everything and still choosing to rise and not become bitter. You've been tested by the shadows not because you're weak, but because your soul carries a frequency that threatens the entire matrix. And I don't say that lightly. You walking in your truth fully, unapologetically destabilizes systems. You carry codes that weren't meant to blend in. You carry knowledge that can't be taught, only remembered. And here's what they don't want you to realize. Every time you survive something that should have broken you, you're unlocking more of that ancient memory. Every heartbreak, every loss, every betrayal, it's not just pain. It's initiation. It's the darkness asking, are you ready to wield the power you came here to carry? But here's the thing most people won't admit. Being a dark chosen one is lonely. There's no map for this path. There's no handbook. No mentor. You don't get to follow the crowd. You are the outlier. The glitch. The one who sees the truth and can't unsee it. And that's terrifying because once you wake up to this role, everything changes. You stop resonating with most people. The conversations that used to excite you now bore you. The relationships you once clung to start falling apart. Why? Because your vibration is shifting. You're no longer operating from surface level identity, but you are being pulled into your essence. And essence doesn't need validation. It doesn't need applause. It just is. But let's be real. The path of the dark chosen one will test your sanity. You'll question everything you're worth, your purpose, your very existence. That's part of the process, because to truly claim your power, you must first walk through the fire of forgetting. You must first be stripped of everything you thought you were so that what's real can emerge. The ego will scream. The mind will panic. But underneath all that noise, there's a stillness, a presence, a force that's been with you since the beginning. That's the real you. That's the part of you the shadows can't touch. So here's the question you need to ask yourself right now. What if nothing is wrong with me? What if all this darkness I've survived wasn't punishment but preparation? What if I'm not broken, I'm becoming? Because when you ask that question, your whole reality begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a vessel. You realize that the shadows aren't here to destroy you, they're here to refine you, to carve out the parts of you that were never real to begin with, and to burn away the attachments that kept you small. And once you surrender to that process, once you stop running from it and start walking through it, you begin to access a level of clarity that can't be taught in books or workshops. It's the clarity of someone who has faced death, depression, despair, and didn't die. And here's the wild part. The more you walk through the darkness, the more light you start to carry. But it's not the soft, fragile light of innocence. It's the fierce, grounded, unshakable light of someone who has been to hell and came back with wisdom. That's the kind of light that changes things. That's the kind of light that doesn't need to announce itself, it just is, and the world feels it. They don't know why they're drawn to you. They don't know why your words hit different. They don't know why your silence speaks louder than their noise. But you do. Because you've earned it. You've walked it. You've become it. So if you're being tested by the shadows constantly, don't let the world convince you that you're doing something wrong. Maybe you're doing something very right. Maybe you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Maybe you're not here to escape the dark, you're here to master it. The sacred fire of isolation, why your loneliness is the crucible of awakening. There's a silence that comes before transformation. A silence that doesn't feel peaceful or blissful, it feels like abandonment, like being forgotten by the universe. And if you've ever sat in that silence, if you've ever looked around and seen no one beside you, no one who understands what you're going through, then you've touched the sacred fire of isolation. This isn't regular loneliness. It's not just about being physically alone. It's the deeper ache, the spiritual exile, the sensation that you were dropped into this world without a tribe, without a map, without a lifeline. It feels brutal. But here's the thing most people never realize until it's too late. That fire is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to forge you. You see, when you're a dark chosen one, separation isn't punishment, it's placement. The universe sets you apart not to diminish you, but to distill you. When no one else is around to influence your thoughts, your beliefs, your movement, you're forced to confront the raw truth of who you are underneath all the masks. It's not glamorous. There are no cosmic fireworks. Most of the time, there's just silence, or a void, but that void is the womb of rebirth. It's in the stillness that you hear your soul speak. It's when everything falls away that your real identity starts to emerge, not the one you created to survive, but the one that was always buried beneath the noise. And yes, it hurts. Of course it does. Spiritual isolation is the kind of pain that doesn't show up in the body, it bleeds through your energy field. You feel like you're walking between worlds, too awake to fit into the matrix, too raw to be understood by the surface-level spiritual crowd. You try to connect, but conversations feel empty. You try to belong, but nothing clicks. You feel invisible, or worse, misunderstood. But that's the fire doing its work. Because the more time you spend in that space, the less you rely on external validation. You stop looking for mirrors outside yourself and become your own reflection. You start hearing your own rhythm. You start remembering your own voice. This is why so many dark chosen ones go through prolonged periods of isolation. Not because they're antisocial, not because they're broken, but because they're being recalibrated. Their energy is being purified. Their old attachments are being burned away. And let's be honest, if you're still attached to needing people to understand you, you'll never step into your full power. You'll keep shrinking to fit. You'll keep diluting your truth. But when you've sat long enough in the sacred fire, something shifts. You stop needing to be seen. And paradoxically, that's when the world does start to see you, but by then, you don't need it. Because you've already seen yourself. So let's ask a deeper question. What if your loneliness is not a wound, but a passage? What if the silence is not empty, it's sacred? What if the isolation is not exile, it's initiation? Because when you begin to approach your aloneness as a portal, everything changes. You stop resisting the silence and start listening to it. You realize that your greatest breakthroughs are not going to come when you're surrounded by people cheering you on. They're going to come when you're sitting alone in the dark, whispering to yourself, "I'm still here. I'm not giving up." That's when the codes begin to unlock. That's when the visions return. That's when your gifts start to awaken. Not because someone else activated them, but because you finally got out of your own way. That's the paradox of the dark path. You think you're being abandoned, but in reality you're being refined. You think you've been left behind, but in truth you've been called forward. And the moment you stop resisting the fire, it stops burning you and starts reshaping you. And here's the most powerful thing. When you come out of that isolation, you're not the same. You speak differently. You move differently. Your presence begins to carry weight. Not because you're trying to be anything, but because your energy is anchored. You've walked through the void. You've faced the silence. You've survived the nights when no one checked in, no one understood, and still you stayed with yourself. That's spiritual loyalty. That's spiritual maturity. That's the kind of power that doesn't shake when the world does. So if you're in that place right now, if everything's quiet, if no one gets it, if you feel like you've been left in the dark, don't run. Don't numb. Don't distract. Sit with it. Feel it. Let it burn through your illusions. Let it strip away what you thought you needed. And ask yourself, who am I when no one's watching? Who am I when I stop performing? Who am I when it's just me and the void? Because the answer to that question is the key to your next evolution. You are not being punished. You are being purified. You are not being forgotten. You are being forged. And when the time comes, when you emerge from that fire, the world won't recognize you, not because you've changed, but because you've returned to who you really are. The art of shadow alchemy, transforming trauma into weapons of light. There is a moment in every dark chosen one's journey where the pain becomes unbearable. It's not the kind of pain that comes from a single moment of loss or betrayal. It's the accumulated weight of lifetimes of soul memories buried so deep they echo through your bones. You feel haunted, not just by what happened to you in this life, but by what your soul remembers from the ones before. You carry wounds that don't have names, emotions that don't have stories, and the world tells you to heal, to move on, to let it go, but they have no idea what you're carrying. Because your pain isn't just personal, it's ancestral, it's cosmic. It's the pain of a soul who came here not to escape the shadow, but to transmute it. And this is where the true work begins. Because real spiritual power isn't found in how much light you can channel, it's found in how much darkness you can face without flinching. It's found in your ability to look at your deepest wounds and say, "I see you. I'm not afraid of you anymore." That's the art of shadow alchemy. It's not about suppressing your trauma or bypassing your pain with spiritual cliches. It's about going straight into the wound and extracting the gold. It's about turning your suffering into strategy, your triggers into tools, your heartbreak into fuel. You see, every trauma you've endured isn't just a scar, it's a potential sword. But that sword stays buried until you're willing to do the terrifying work of pulling it from your own flesh. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it feels like dying. Because on some level, it's the death of who you thought you had to be to survive. The death of the mask, the role, the victimhood. When you finally stop resisting your pain and start listening to it, it reveals its true purpose. But it was never here to destroy you. It was here to initiate you. That's the secret no one talks about. Your trauma carries codes. Ancient, alchemical codes that can't be activated until you face them with presence. Not with judgment, not with shame, but with reverence. Because inside your darkest moments are the raw materials of your greatest gifts. The betrayal that broke you open taught you how to see through illusion. The abandonment that shattered your heart taught you how to stand in your own energy. The loss that gutted you taught you how to hold the frequency of death, and therefore of rebirth. So let me ask you something that might rattle your soul. What if your trauma was never the enemy? What if it was the teacher? What if the very thing you've been trying to get rid of is the thing you came here to master? That doesn't mean you deserved what happened to you. It doesn't mean it was fair, or right, or justified. But it does mean that your soul chose this path, knowing exactly what it would require and what it would unlock. And here's where it gets even more powerful. Once you start alchemizing your shadow, you become dangerous not to others, but to the systems that thrive on fear. Because you're no longer reactive. You're no longer easily manipulated. You've stopped outsourcing your power to people who can't hold it. You don't need approval because you've approved of yourself. You don't need to be saved because you've rescued yourself from the underworld of your own psyche. That's what makes you a threat to the Matrix. You've turned your wounds into weapons of light. And not the kind of weapon that harms, but the kind that heals. The kind that cuts through illusion. The kind that people can feel just by being in your presence. That's why your story matters. Not the polished version. The real one. The one with the blood and the dirt and the tears. The one that shows the world what it looks like to fall apart and come back stronger. To lose everything and still choose to love. To be betrayed and still choose to trust yourself. But that's shadow alchemy. It's not about being perfect. It's about being powerful in your rawness. It's about becoming whole, not by erasing your darkness, but by integrating it, owning it, walking with it like an old friend instead of a monster under the bed. So, if you're still running from your shadow, this is your invitation to stop, and to turn around, to face it. Because the longer you avoid your pain, the more it controls you. But the moment you meet it with presence, you reclaim your power. You start to understand that the shadow was never the enemy, it was the initiation. And you were never broken. You were never weak. You were just becoming the alchemist you were born to be. The final rebirth, why dark chosen ones were sent to resurrect a dying world. There's a reason you've never quite fit in. A reason the world has always felt a little too shallow, a little too loud, too chaotic, too unreal. You weren't sent here to adapt to this version of reality, you were sent here to rewrite it. And not with force, not with fame, not with noise, but with presence, with frequency, with the quiet, relentless fire of someone who has died 1,000 spiritual deaths and still chooses to rise. That's the final stage of the dark chosen one's journey, the rebirth. And it doesn't come with applause. It doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with a whisper from within that says, "You're ready now." You see, the world is not dying because of lack of technology or knowledge. It's dying from spiritual starvation. It's collapsing under the weight of its own illusions. People are disconnected from their own essence. They're chasing shallow comfort, numbing themselves with distraction, running from the very thing that could heal them truth. And that's why you're here. You, the one they call too intense, too sensitive, too different. You carry a blueprint of what comes after the collapse. You've seen it in your dreams. You felt it in your bones. A world that remembers. A world where the soul leads. A world where the light isn't soft and sanitized but forged in the fire of integration. But to bring that world through, you had to become it. That's why your path has been so brutal. That's why the shadows wouldn't leave you alone. It's not because you were weak, it's because you were being rebuilt. Every breakdown was a blueprint. Every betrayal was a purification. Every lonely night was initiation. And now, after all you've endured, you're carrying something that cannot be taught. A frequency that can't be faked. You don't need to preach it. You are it. You walk into rooms and shift atmospheres. You speak truth and people feel it in their nervous systems. Not because you're trying, but because you've become it. This is why you can't go back to who you were. You've outgrown the old skin. You've shed too many illusions. You've died too many times to pretend you don't know who you are anymore. You are not here to be liked. You are not here to be understood by the masses. You are here to resurrect a frequency that this world forgot. And that resurrection must begin with you, not outside you, not on a stage, in you, or in how you speak to yourself, in how you hold your energy, in how you treat your body, your mind, your spirit. Every moment is a spell. Every breath is a broadcast. Are you aligned with the frequency of your rebirth, or are you still negotiating with the version of you that was built in survival? You've already walked through the underworld. You've already faced the shadows. You've already confronted the void. What's left now is embodiment. That's the final initiation. Can you live as the truth you've remembered? Not just on the mountaintop, but in the mundane. Can you carry your light without needing to dim others? Can you speak your truth without needing everyone to agree? Can you walk in your power without apologizing for your presence? Because if you truly integrate all that you are, then you become the living bridge between dimensions and the walking portal, the embodied prophecy. And you don't need recognition for that. You don't need a title. Your energy becomes your legacy, and the world feels it. The world changes around you not because you tried to change it, but because you changed yourself. So now, the final question: will you rise as the version of you that remembers why you came? Will you stop waiting for permission and start living as the frequency of the new world? Because you weren't sent here to escape this dying reality. You were sent to resurrect it from the inside out. And now it begins with you.